An increasing willingness to volunteer during the coronavirus pandemic has been noted in Edinburgh.
Our role is kind of twofold. We help the people who want to volunteer, and we also help the organisations who engage those volunteers. So we always talk about, both sides of the coin that we work with. When obviously the pandemic has come along, and that's changed an awful lot in Edinburgh. And it's interesting that people, there was an immediate response and a fantastic community response. People really started coming together and saying, I can help my neighbours. And I think that the power of that cannot be underestimated. Obviously, it's my job and my organisation's role in the city to encourage people to participate, to volunteer, to give their time. And so it was fantastic that, organically, people just saw opportunities. And we saw some really fantastic groups connecting with each other on Facebook. Very quickly, we provided guidance to people who were doing that.
The very landscape of volunteering could see something of an evolution, with a peer-to-peer neighbourhood-based model seen during lockdown potentially continuing.
Things are going to change, though, aren't they? I mean, we all know that. It's not like a straight path. We can't see ahead exactly what's going to happen. And I think it's really important for us to remember that just because, we might have a little bit more personal freedom in the coming weeks, that doesn't mean to say that we don't have a lot of people in the city who are still in need. And so a lot of what will happen is us going forward will be people continuing to volunteer, whether that's being a good neighbour and doing that peer-to-peer thing, whether that's doing it through emerging opportunities, because I'm now beginning to see some third sector organisations beginning to re-advertise opportunities. And that's great. So a good example of that would be if you've been doing a food delivery support thing, maybe some of your volunteers are now having to return to work. Therefore, you need to actually replace those volunteer drivers. And so we're seeing things like that happening. And that's exactly what I'd expect to happen. A reflection I would make about the future is just prior to the pandemic starting, we were about to publish a new volunteering strategy for the city, which is just an overview of where we are in Edinburgh and what we aspire to do. I was slightly late in publishing that, to be quite honest with you. And now I'm so really glad that I was, because everything has changed. And I'm really mindful that I'm basically going to rewrite that because it's now a new world. And in some respects, that there are opportunities there for us to really embed that volunteering attitude in Edinburgh. Embed it more than it is, because it's always been there, but embed it more and perhaps allow other people who maybe previously thought volunteering is something that somebody else does. And, our research shows that's very much a belief historically, that volunteering is something that other people do. And it's not. It's something that all of us do and can do if we want to.
So the hope for them is that volunteering out of necessity during an emergency can translate into more people choosing to do so even after the crisis subsides. Ian McNally, That's TV.